is an understanding that it is possible to lead a joyous life, a happy life, and that there are actually things that you can do well within your means, your abilities, actual things that you can do to be able to experience on a consistent basis, on a regular basis, quite effortlessly, joy in life. It's not that you have to do, play mental gymnastics, no. You just have to understand how the mind works, and from that understanding, it is possible to live happily. And I think that's what we hope to be able to do, isn't it? That we can be happy. And it's a happiness that comes from within. It is not something you depend on external factors. A happiness that comes from within. Because if your sense of pleasure, delight, happiness, if that sense is dependent on external factors outside of your control, then you will find that life is very difficult because you're constantly having to manage things out there. And really, so many things out there are beyond your control. People's reaction, the accidents that happen, the bad things that happen because of, in your mind, I don't know why, maybe bad karma, maybe bad luck, maybe feng shui and so on. And so there is worry and agitation and anxiety, and then all kinds of funny things happen in your mind, and then those add on to more problems for you. No, we don't want that. We want to know how this mind works, and then we can set the correct conditions for the mind, and then come what come may out there, we are okay. So that's what we want. The Buddha's teaching was about helping the individual make the right choices and set the correct conditions for the mind. And then, whatever happens out there, you're fine. You will still go back to your quiet and joyous mind state. You don't have to worry about it. What it takes is a little faith. You see, faith is this. I'm not talking about faith much tonight. If you want to know more about faith, you've got to go to last night's talk. It's on YouTube. There you are. I'm not going to talk much about faith, but this notion of faith is important. You see, faith, the faith that I'm talking about is the faith that sits on knowledge. And it is the faith that says, you sure? Are you sure? You mean I have to do all these things and I'm fine? That requires faith. You see what I'm saying? Because we think that, we have a certain way of thinking about how to do things. For us to turn away from the usual way of doing things is very hard. So for instance, the way we believe that if we want something, we've got to go get it, and they'll be happy. That's how the usual mind works. But I'm saying, no. The way to be happy is not go get it. The way to be happy is to learn to calm down, wait, pause, and then happiness will arise by itself. And you go, are you sure? Is that how it works? That's because you don't believe that's how the mind works. You see what I'm saying? So, what I'm going to share is a method of fixing the mind, and you must have the faith that it will work so that you will apply the method. It's a method. It's like telling your patient, take antibiotics 3 times a day, do not stop. And then they don't believe you. They will take it 2 times a day, 1 time a day when they feel like it, or they forgot, and so on and so forth. This Dhamma is medicine. Dhamma is medicine for the mind. Okay? So, bane of the regular mind. We all have regular minds. If your mind is not regular, I can't help you. Meaning not normal, not average, not conventional, I can't help you. But if your mind is like everyone else, then no problem. The Dhamma will work. Do you need something? Why? Oh, I haven't touched it, right? Oh, okay. I haven't pressed yet, right? Okay. So where do I press? Enter. Yeah, okay. Space bar. Okay. Bane of the regular mind. Fundamentally, one big problem. Our regular mind is what I call pleasure-centric, ego-centric. Pleasure-centric means we are constantly looking to experience delight, pleasure. And our regular mind says and equates pleasure with happiness. When I experience and taste pleasure, I'm happy. And therefore, ergo, have as much pleasure as possible. And so the mind stores up memories of what is pleasurable, what is enjoyable. It could be experience, it could be just simple taste, touch, sound, sight. Those are the pleasures that you can derive from outside. Repeat, sight, sound, smell, taste, touch. These are the connections, the connecting points with the external world. And in all those experiences, there will be the ones that are pleasurable, and there will be the ones that are painful. And then generally, we will gravitate towards the one that gives pleasure. And the mind will remember. And the next time the mind is not feeling too good, it will go out and look for repeat experience. That's what I call repeat broadcast. So if this particular food cooked by this particular person tastes a certain way, that gives me pleasure, the next time I will go look for the same food. But you know what's really odd? It doesn't taste the same. Have you all had this experience? You taste the food, it's really good, you go back and you go and check out that taste. It's not quite the same as the one. It's because your mind remembers the delight. It remembers pleasure. And so when you repeat that, the pleasure center doesn't get light up as profoundly, as brightly as it did the first time. And so repeating it doesn't give you the same amount of pleasure, but it doesn't matter, you still go and do it. Is there anything wrong? No, nothing wrong. But you must know that this kind of external sources of pleasure and therefore proxy happiness, proxy, they are impermanent, they don't last. And every time you need higher doses of stimulation, that can happen. Or you get disappointed, that can happen. And all these pleasures, temporary as they may be, you have concluded you can be happy only if you keep doing it. So this is how the mind learns. Those are the external ones. The internal ones, bhava tangha, the internal ones, has to do with the mind repeating the experience but in a mental way. So let's say someone you love the sound, the smell, the touch, the sight. I don't know about taste, but 4 out of 5. and in your mind, you will remember, right? Memory is bhava tangha, mind-made, but still pleasure. Think already you're happy. When you think about it, nice. Then go back and check the fellow out. But then, if the person is in a bad mood and does not give you the same level of pleasure because it's in a bad mood, this mind goes crazy, isn't it? Don't laugh so loud. But that's what happens. That is the nature. So we are pleasure-centric. And it's from pleasure we derive happiness. Egocentric. It's all about you. It's all about my pleasure. And the more ignorant we are, the more we are fixated about ensuring my pleasure. And anyone who does anything that affects the sum of my pleasure, I don't like the fella. How dare you unilaterally minus my sum of pleasure. So you don't like the fella. It's all about mine. And sometimes it's not even about possession, my things. It's about an identity, that an image, an idea about yourself that you have formed. So I am so and so. And you could have given me my accorded rights, my entitlements. You could have treat me like, why you serve water in this cup? It should have yeah, my name. Yeah, you must have my name on the cup. And why no plate? It's so wrong. So it's a sense of entitlement and the idea. Can you imagine? Just an idea gives you pleasure. Someone treats you nice. We meet, and you remember my name. It's a pleasure because it feeds my ego. It's just so weird how we derive pleasure from just ideas. And this is what happened. You call yourself a Buddhist. A Buddhist is very important. Being a Buddhist is important, and if you are not a Buddhist, I don't like you. Oh, this is terrible. But it happens. It's ego. It's all an ego trip. And so I put down these 2 points. Look at the 2 points. Revisiting, planning, strategizing. You think about your own mind. You just do a quick reflection. How often you plan, you recall, you strategize to feed pleasure, to feed the ego. And how often we get lost in thoughts doing these activities to feed the ego. That's point 1. Point 2, we construct thoughts a lot with regards to these 2 points. Karma-centric, pleasure-centric, pleasure and the I. How much effort we put in very spontaneous thought construction on these 2 points, just these 2 points. Even when you're thinking about doing good, right? Even when you're thinking about doing good, how much is it about me feeling good as I do good? It's so weird, right? We're not spontaneous, but we think about that. And sometimes, not doing, just thinking. Hence, when you go on a trip, you derive more pleasure planning the trip and remembering the trip than experiencing the trip. Have you ever thought about that? And you recall that awful trip, but now in retrospect, it's actually it wasn't so bad. Yeah. That's the mind, the most powerful pleasure center of it all. Now, I said inevitability of dukkha. You all know the meaning of the word dukkha, right? Dukkha is not suffering, because suffering is just too painful. But any sense of not so pleasant is suffering. It's dukkha, sorry. It is dukkha. So if you're sitting down there, your leg getting a bit cramped, it's dukkha. My hair today not looking too good, it's dukkha. I'm serious. There's no pain involved, but it affects my image. Nobody's looking at us, but doesn't matter. I am looking at me, and everyone is just looking at themselves, but it's very dukkha in my hair. It's like off a bit, you know? So anyhow, we spend a lot of time on these, and these are very temporary. They're impermanent. They come and they go, and we know that. But it doesn't matter. We still want that, okay? So this is the regular mind. This is not the main story. This is the regular mind, right? The regular mind being pleasure-centric, egocentric, and therefore experiencing a lot of dukkha. Fair? The formula is to break harmful pattern of thinking. What we understand to be the middle path is a method, a methodology of breaking habits, this egocentric thing and this pleasure-centric thing. You train yourself in this path, in this set of cultivation. You cultivate in this way to break the regular pattern of behavior. Neither too indulgent nor deliberately hurting yourself. I will raise one example to explain, and this is just a mundane example, but it's an example to explain what I mean by this too extreme. Okay? We all have a special someone, I'm assuming. If you don't have a special someone, then think of somebody whose relationship is particularly important to you. Maybe with your father, your mother, your siblings, your loved ones. It doesn't matter. I just need you to think of your relationship with one person, very special. And on this wonderful day, there is a big conflict. It's a big fight. Okay? Now is the aftermath of that big fight. And in the aftermath of the big fight, two things can happen. You can go back, do a good hug. Okay, not so good with your father, but it's just go back to your loved one, that special someone. Just hug, and they call it the makeup sex thing. Yeah? Just have this wonderful, this is indulgent, overly indulgent. But most time, it's denial. I'm not going to talk until the fella talk first. I'm not going to apologize until that fella apologizes first, right? This is how the mind works. I'm not going to make good until the fella make good first. He has to offer that olive leaves. So guess what you did to yourself? You're denying yourself from repairing the relationship. And if you're really good at denying, it will last a lifetime. Quite bad, huh? You think about it. So the regular person has this bad habit of either or. Either you love the fellow to death, or I'm not going near you. Neither our shadow will touch. I'm not staying in this room with you. That's how we are. The mind is just a strange thing. So this is with regards to ego. You think about pleasure. This is bad for me, I won't take it. Or this is good for me, I must take it. And then sometimes you just deny yourself and you do things like that. I should study, I should go. And so the mind will toggle between chasing after something or completely denying yourself of it. And what we are saying is there is a way of coping. It shouldn't be just coping. Eventually, it should be more than coping. But there is a way of riding mental states and kind of treading between strictly denying yourself, i.e. very painful, and just completely indulging. It shouldn't be this too extreme. You should be able to, in this training, you should be able to reach a mental state where it's okay if it's there, it is also okay if it is not. I am just happy where I am, it really doesn't matter. That's the intent. It is not to say you cannot have something. It's that whether or not it is there, I am happy. So your happiness, your joy, your peace, your tranquility is from within, not from something out there. That's the intent, okay? We talk about the middle path. Forget about 8 steps. We will focus on the 3 core parts. It is not a repeat of last night. It is similar but not identical. the first, in our practice, it starts with the correct understanding, your correct baseline. We all, in the way that we look at the world and the way that we understand the world, there is a baseline. And in the regular mind's baseline, the way we understand the world goes like this. Oh, pleasure is important. And when we are experiencing pleasure, we forget pain. We are fixated about retaining pleasure. So the idea that pleasure can last. In fact, for many of us, the ones who are better at, we call resilience, better at, what's that word? I forgot my English word. Better at delaying gratification. We were able to take hardship and then delay the gratification. For those of us who are good at that, we will say this. We will say, well, we're not happy now, we suffer a lot, and we work very hard, and we have to put up with a lot of nonsense, and so on and so forth, but it's okay. Tomorrow we'll be fine. Happiness is down the line. Do you know of, do you feel like this? Whatever that I'm doing now, it could be hard. I may have to tolerate my exam and teachers and hardship, so much hardship, so on and so forth, but it's all right. When I graduate, I'll be fine. And those who have graduated will say, it's all right. When I finish my internship, I'll be fine. And then those who are finishing their internship will say, it's all right. When I have my own independent practice, I'll be fine. And then when you're practicing, you say, it's all right. When I grow old and the kids have grown up, I'll be fine. And then you have grown old and ready to retire. It's all right. When I'm dead, I'll be fine. No. When you're dead, you start again. You see what I'm saying? The regular person has this problem with assumptions and about it's okay if it's dukkha now, later we'll be fine. And it's so weird. Later, are you going to do anything different? If you're not going to do anything different, how is later going to be fine? If you have got to this point and this is your lot based on your assumptions and the choices you make, this is your lot. How is later going to be fine? How are things going to change? It can't. It will only be fine. It will be fine only if you change the baseline way of thinking. Your attitude has to change. If your attitude and your expectations and your assumptions and your motivations do not change, how is later going to be different from now? See what I'm saying? You think about it. So the only way that later will be fine is when you shift the way your mind assumes, understands, sees the world, sees yourself in relation to the world. So your baseline of understanding and seeing things has to change. Change to what? I said, be reminded of Four Noble Truths, impermanence, conditionality, mind-made reality. I'm going to explain this. First, you have to assume. Be reminded of Dhamma means you have to assume that if you chase and you want and you hope and you expect, all these has a direct correlation with dissatisfaction. As long as you say, I'm not happy with this, I want more. In the I want more lies the pain. If you say, it's all right, I can make do, straight away, at that very point when you really believe in, it's all right, I can make do, you'll feel better. However well you can say that and convince yourself, that much you will feel happier. That's all. This is the true nature of the mind. Really? That's where the faith is missing. You understand? As long as you remember, and this part, this correlation part between wanting and feeling dissatisfied, this is a direct correlation. That much wanting, that much dissatisfaction. That much wanting, that much dissatisfaction. One thing is very marginal. I am really quite happy. It's a direct correlation. If you remember this correlation, if you remember and you test it for yourself on a daily basis, you see that this is being reminded of Dhamma. You really got to remind yourself. Just bring it up alive. Remind yourself. So every time you feel very agitated, you immediately ask yourself, what is it you want? And you ask yourself, which part of this giant chunk of I want, which part can I slice off? Which part can I let be? How much can I let be? I'm not asking you to let go completely because you are very new to this practice, but which part can you let be? For instance, I want to be manager. Manager is maybe I want to pass with distinction for my exam. Is that a reasonable assumption? Yeah. I want to pass with distinction for my exam. Okay? Very dukkha, isn't it? Yeah, especially since you want to play and oh man, I got to do this and I got to do that, I got to do that. It's very painful. Now you said, you know what? I don't need food. I don't need the top of the class. I just need to do well enough to get a very decent grade. I feel so much better. You see what I'm saying? I feel so much better. And then if you can say, you know what? My parents don't really care if I pass. not a good thing to encourage, but I'm just asking you to look at, if you start to bring down expectations to a level you think it's okay. You think. How many of us live for another person? He thinks, she thinks, my mother thinks, my father thinks. How often it's about somebody else's loba, somebody else's desire. And here you are desperately trying to accommodate another person's desire. So if you're a parent, don't inflict your desire on your children. It's bad enough trying to carry your own. Don't say, hey, you come, help me carry this 30 kilo. Don't do that. You know what I'm saying? You learn to teach your child the Dhamma and then don't go at the weight on them. So I speak to your parents. Okay, got it. And that's the idea. If you say, are you sure that's where your faith in your own mind, the properties of your mind, your faith is missing. This is not Buddha who said so, therefore it must be right. This is you can see for yourself the nature of the mind. And because you can see for yourself the nature of the mind, it has to be right. Test it. Now, the point when you can say, I can accept this and therefore I feel better, and you remember this property of the mind, and you start to have this property, this attitude as part of your assumption, you will find that the way you see things and list down your priorities, you will find that it starts to change. You are not so hard and so stubborn about holding an impossible standard. And you'll feel better. Automatically feel better. So, when I say having wisdom, it is to bear this little principle of the mind in mind for your daily life. Okay? I talk about impermanence. So, until you really observe and realize for yourself impermanence, this is not impossible. Look, I am not even asking you to play peekaboo with your mind. All you need to do is, if you're very upset, you just sit there, don't say a word, just observe the agitation. You will see that the agitation will lose steam. If you don't talk, you don't add thoughts, it will lose steam by itself. This is the nature of the mind. You get angry and you go, I won't say a word. I will just be patient because I have faith. I will have patience and I will wait. And you quietly observe the anger losing steam very fast. It's like a deflated balloon with many holes, and it will deflate very fast. What will keep it inflated is when you do the third thing, mind made. You keep saying, he did this to me, he did that to me, he said this to me, he said that to me. You do that, and you're essentially pumping air back into your balloon. You do that often enough, your description of what he did to you becomes a semi-fixture, like a treasured library book in your mind. It's the Google search where, it's searched so often. When you key in the word, that's the first word that pops up. That's the first event that pops up. That's what's going to happen. So, in order that you are able to shift the way your mind works, bear these characteristics of the mind in mind. It will help. I guarantee your money back. Not that I took a cent from you, luckily. But I'm serious. This is Dhamma. The whole intent of explaining these concepts, not by me, I mean by the Buddha, was to explain to people the nature of their mind and how to, with the understanding, manage accordingly. You will be able to trim the feeling of dukkha. So that's one. This is one set. Then I said to cultivate these qualities. They're not plucked off the air. The word contentment it's a direct correlation with the first principle, the Four Noble Truths. That I spoke about the correlation between dukkha and how much you want. So you want to be happy, you have to teach yourself some degree of contentment. Contentment with regards to what you are achieving, contentment with regards to relationship, contentment with regards to the opportunities that you have in life, contentment with regards to the conditions you have already been given. We tend to look for what we could have more, and that's where problems lie. You want to be happy? You must first be content with what you already have. You already have. Example, all of you here walk on two legs. You are mobile. You don't need help. At least you can run when you want. Slowly, it's okay. Don't have to do the marathon. You know what I'm saying? You have good health, reasonably good health. You have a working brain. Your warped reality is not more warped than others. It's a relatively decent sense of reality. You are fundamentally alive and able to make decisions for yourself. I don't know about your life. I hope that there are people in your life that you love and who love you. If those are your conditions, you have life. You have people you love and who loved you back. You have education. And you have a way of of having some financial independence. That's a great start. And you know what? Above all, you have Dhamma. You have the blueprint to make yourself happy in life. You understand the blueprint properly, it's a money-back guarantee. You will be happy in life. Really, what more do you want? You can, if you get all this right, at the end of this life, you will say, it's a good life. I'm very happy. I'm content. What more do you want? You see what I'm saying? So, contentment. Train yourself to be grateful for whatever you already have. And every day, and you know what? It's really interesting. Today, part of therapy, psychological therapy, part of therapy is actually to write down, to list for yourself day by day what you are grateful for. This was taught by the Buddha 2,500 years ago. How brilliant was this man? Something he taught a long time ago is now being used as therapy. And the Buddhists forgot, or some of us forgot. You see what I'm saying? All this is actually in his teaching. So gratitude and contentment, two sides of the same coin. If you are not content, you don't have gratitude. If you are grateful, it means you have contentment. So just to extend my talk a little, I put them separate lines. Just to remember to say the words. When you think about it, it is, isn't it? Empathy. Very often, our mind is quite caught up in ourselves. But by empathy, I mean the moment you begin to understand the nature of dukkha, you will realize that every living being experiences the same conditions. Except for the ones who really understand the blueprint to understanding the mind and doing their DIY fixing. Otherwise, everyone else experiences dukkha. And so what do you have? You realize this connection, you will understand empathy. Absolutely. So, this is what will happen. If you begin to understand dukkha, next time you see someone who is angry, what you will have is compassion. Because immediately you feel the empathy. He's upset because he has a lot of dukkha. Oh, poor thing, you have so much dukkha. Come. Let me shower you with metta and make you feel better. And it's just like that. You don't have empathy, you can forget about the genuine metta and compassion, karuna, compassion. Metta is this loving kindness that they talk about, friendliness. If you don't have empathy, your metta and your karuna is what we will call fly by night. Comes visit once in a while and that's it, it's gone. But if you really understand dukkha, from an understanding of how the mind works, then those conditions, the metta and the karuna, the empathy, they are spontaneous and they are long-term residents. They will stay. It become a semi-permanent fixture in your mind. Conditional arising, it's a semi-permanent. You understand? And these conditions, metta, karuna, patience, gratitude, contentment, they are very powerful mental energies. They are mental states. As long as they are in your mind, these mental states are in your mind, what you will feel is lightness and joy. Okay? They are not words. They are real mental states. Just think, okay? Just close your eyes. Just close your eyes for a split minute. Just close your eyes for a split minute and you think about contentment or you think about gratitude. You can choose anyone. You think about compassion. Do you feel this little joy that lurks behind? For some of you, by thinking already, you start smiling. So they are mental energies, you see. They are not words. Okay? Next. Oh, I forgot to say this. Empathy in the Dhamma, in the Buddhist teaching, it's constantly emphasized like this about empathy. It's for the welfare and the happiness of yourself and another. It's always this. The Buddha always say it like this. You practice for the benefit of yourself and for another. The reason is this. When you practice correctly, your mental state is light and joyous. So the practice is for yourself. And when you are light and joyous, you can help others. You will feel for others. You will be considerate and respectful of others. It is just like that. And so your practice is strong and on track. You will be happy and you will help others be happy. If you are starting out on a family, it is good to do the practice correctly, help your partner understand the principles, work on it correctly, produce little ones. They must also understand the principles. And then what you will have is the real happy family. From your house at I don't know what street will repose the joy and happiness of that world. This is how it works. You don't look for happiness outside. Your start point is here. And this is the source of that joy. It is not imagination. If the Buddha can, you hear the story about how the Buddha can tame a raging elephant, right? He's a drunken elephant. Read my book, it's there. He's a drunken elephant. How did he tame this guy? Because the elephant can feel the Buddha's joy and compassion and empathy for it. Animals are very sensitive, because animals are not like human, they think too much. I assume they don't think a lot. But they can feel humans. You'll be surprised. You have to just stare at the dog and it will come to you. You see what I'm saying? Any of you animal lovers? Yeah. You know what I'm saying, right? It's quite interesting, isn't it? So this is important to bear in mind. You're practicing for yourself and for others. You're practicing to make yourself happy so that you can be a source of comfort, a source of joy for another, and not be the bane of another's existence. You know what I'm saying? It's so sad. Oh, he's here, go that way. Now that is so sad. Okay, next. Sila. I said morality is for reshaping physical, verbal, mental expressions of the mind. Our mind has a very bad habit. Actually, it's not your fault. You see, the doctors will tell you, or maybe the botanists, I'm not sure, or the biologists will tell you, embedded in your DNA is a survival instinct. And the intent of that instinct is merely to keep you alive. It's not interested in your happiness. It only wants to keep you alive. So you actually have instincts to protect your turf. Why? Those are resources that keep you alive. And you will see everyone else as a potential friend or foe. Again, it is to keep you alive. You read wrongly, you'll be dead and your possession taken. And you produce beings to keep the species alive. So nature is just brilliant at ensuring the survival of the species. Nature doesn't care if you're happy or not. So the same instincts that keep you alive are really the same instincts that make you go chase. One, search, hunt. You must have the instinct to hunt for food. And now that you don't need to hunt for food because you can just go to, I don't know, Coles and buy, what are those instincts supposed to do now? It will hunt for pleasure. It will hunt for things. That's what it's doing what it's supposed to do. Now, sila, the whole idea of sila, is to make sure that in your hunting, you don't go hunt people, hurt people in the process of expanding your share. And as a species, it's really interesting. As a species, when there is prosperity, the species learns how to cooperate. Because when you cooperate, you can protect better. And the species learn that killing others not good. It is not a good thing. So you see that there are rules that are very instinctive. We will steal, but we won't kill. Yeah? Little ones will go club and steal, right? Take people's things. But they don't want to throttle the next kid to death. They don't do that. So the species, it is all very instinctive. Morality is when you learn to contain those instincts and kind of emphasize on the part about happiness, personal happiness and others' happiness. It's when you don't eat too much out of your own protection into the detriment of others. This is actually morality. So every teaching, everywhere, every society will have rules about no killing, no stealing, no lying, no sexual misconduct, one man, one wife, how many you want, those funny kind of society comes out with rules to protect each other. And it's a very cute sutta. It's called the Aganya Sutta. In the Aganya Sutta, the Buddha talk about greed, how the human instincts are all driven by greed. Greed is the power, the engine of evolution. And it evolves to a time when rules started because man got lazy, he started collecting more than his fair share, and then they deplete nature so fast that now man has to cultivate in order to ensure everybody can be fed. But when that started, men then say, look, now that I've cultivated this, you're not going to steal from me. They came up with rules to delineate private property. It's all evolution. Man's need to protect his interests led to men coming up with the police to make sure, or the judge, arbiter, to make sure that no one take more than his fair share and so on and so forth. It's balancing greed, balancing interests. And that's morality. Self-balanced, self-contained, self-managed. Contain your own greed and anger. You don't hurt others. We can live harmoniously, work together. That's the idea. And this needs reshaping. Because your instinct is not to self-regulate. Your instinct is to let go in the wrong way. Not let go, let be. It is to scold and fight and chase and kill, that sort of things. Okay? So here we say avoid evil, do good, purify mind. I'm just doing it very quickly. For details, read my book. It's on morality. Okay? You know the precepts. You understand that this morality is about restrain the greed and the anger in the mind. I won't go too much into this. Okay? Now, all these acts of restraint will help to ensure that you do not suffer from guilt conscience. The opposite side, the kusala, the wholesome, the pure, the beneficial side, it's what will give you happiness. And this is the opposite of taking. The opposite of taking is giving, letting go, sharing, loving, putting another's interest before yours. Now, when you first start out, this is very hard because you're learning to cope and change your instincts. But you know what? As you learn to give and care and share, it gets easier and easier and easier until such time it is second nature. Why? Because your neural pathways have changed. You restructure the brain. First, you fake it. You restructure deliberately. Eventually, it's for real. It's for real because it's been restructured. And it is restructured into a more comfortable, a more peaceful, a more pleasurable, happier. Pleasurable just sounds wrong. Happier. It's a structure that brings you happiness. It's when your brain start releasing endorphin and dopamine, and I'm not sure whether I'm rattling off the correct chemicals, but that's the idea. If it's the wrong chemical, you're like, yeah, you do this. And it requires effort and discipline. Very important is that discipline. So you make one effort and it didn't pay off, you didn't get the reward system turning on and says, here, good boy, you get dopamine. You didn't feel that, right? Discipline, do it again. And you do it again until you feel that pleasure. It will come. Have faith. It will come. It will survive. It will surface. And this, I said, is critical for your own happiness and for spiritual progress. For those of you who are serious about walking this path and you want to meditate and you want the meditation and all, having the kusala mental, the wholesome mental state is non-negotiable. For those who find that it's very difficult for the mind to go quiet, it's really because your regular mind has been parked in the wrong place. It is parked in the akusala, the unwholesome, the angry, the agitated part. If you park it in the kusala, the wholesome, it's not difficult. It's very easy for the mind to go quiet. Let me share a little story. I know, I don't deliberately teach meditation, but I do help people with meditation. And it's from my personal experience that the ones who are most giving, who are most generous, who are most caring, they find it the easiest for the mind to go quiet. Why is that so? Because the Buddha said so. It's just science. The ones who find it the hardest for the mind to stabilize and go quiet are the ones who are very tight, very hard, very tight. And they're always looking for the good deal. The mind is just, it's not about shopping deal. We're actually not talking about shopping deal. It's like, for instance, you go into a room and you're with a friend, you stake out the best corner to sit. And this is my place. I don't care if you're feeling uncomfortable, this is my place. The selfish type, they find it the hardest for the mind to go quiet because the mind is so hard. So hard it couldn't even go quiet. And it's really quite putting, Then you try to remind them, I'm reminding you, you have to be kusala. You have to give. I tell you what, you just start with giving away 10 cents, and then 20 cents, and then $1. You just start giving away money. And then we progress into giving away food. What you have, give half away. And then we go on to, we progress into giving time. Why is time harder to give than money? Because money you can earn, time you can't. You have fixed allocation. And everyone that you give, every minute that you share with another is one less for yourself. So, and giving away pleasure is so hard. For instance, I'm going on a road trip, I'm going to enjoy myself. You ask me to sit with you, why? Why? Unless you give me a lot of pleasure, I'm not going to sit with you. So you will sit with your girlfriend, you sit with your boyfriend because it's quite pleasurable. I'm not going to sit with my mother, I'm not going to sit with my father. Filial piety, so what? Some, for some. For many of us, we are not like this. Yeah? We are the nice ones. Okay, jokes aside, huh? This is all about practice. And I said, this is daily, moment to moment. This is not Katina Day, we do it. Dana, Katina Day. No. This is daily. If you want to practice on a daily basis, find the thing you don't like to do, do it. You know it means a lot to someone. Yeah? You know it means a lot to someone. But you really don't like to do it. Do it. Just try. And after a while, it actually feels quite good. So for instance, if you've never done dana to the Sangha before, I'm talking about in our world, you've never done dana to the Sangha before. Oh, it's so troublesome. I've got to wake up at 6 o'clock, I've got to deliver book by 6:30. It's just so troublesome. Do it. Just for once. And do it joyously. After the event, you walk away, you would actually feel light. Hey, I actually did something I didn't want to. It is feeling quite good. Just do it. You will find that it is actually very, very rewarding. Your reward center will open its door and here, endorphin for you. Voila, huh? It's good. Yeah. Samadhi. Panya, wisdom. Sila, morality or virtues. Samadhi. Samadhi, most people will understand it to be meditation. The word is loaded. It's sometimes difficult to imagine. And if you've never really meditated, what you will think about meditation is a form. You sit, you close your eyes, you don't know what for 1 hour, and that's meditation. No. That's a form. Real samadhi is the quiet mind. A quiet and still mind. If you're very still, great. If you're not completely still, that's fine. It is a mind that is relatively quiet. It doesn't have a lot of chatter. And it is effortless in being present. The mind that is watchful, present, quiet, and still. The more still, meaning it's not drifting. The mind is not drifting. The mind is present, effortless. Okay? The regular mind is a serial drifter. Nomad. It can wanders all over the place. By any stimulation, it will wander to the end of the earth, Venus and more. A mind that is in training, being trained, does not wander as much. It will kind of wander around a parameter. And after a while, they will sit quietly and all. Buddha used the analogy of animals, right? A whole bunch of animals running all over. 5 animals tied to a pole, and they fly and they run and they go all over. But eventually, because they're tied to a pole, eventually they all settle down. That's the idea. That you become watchful, so you are present with seeing, hearing, smelling. You're just here, you're present. You learn to be able to do that in order that you are able to see mental activities and recognize for yourself that your mind has those habits. It chases, it seeks, it constructs, it thinks, it plans, and it plans itself into pain, it chases itself into pain, it does all kinds of funny things. So having this quiet mind enables you to begin to recognize features of the mind. And you have to be able to recognize those features for you to be able to fix the problem. If you don't recognize the features of the mind, how do you hope to fix a problem? You see what I'm saying? So I will say that on a regular basis, in a daily life, if you say, I don't know how to meditate, never mind. You sit down and you learn a little breathing, to borrow your word, to ground yourself in the present. Just ground it. Watch this breathing for a little while. Feel presence. My mind, I'm aware right now. No, remember the first part, panya. Don't let the mind wander. Just leave it here. Don't keep asking, what should I do? How should I do it? Where should I go? Don't keep doing that. Just go quiet for just a while. And watch this rhythm of breathing. If you find it's very difficult, go back to nature. In Melbourne, nature is everywhere. In Singapore, we have to go to Malaysia for nature. Or Bukit Timah Hill. And when you go to Bukit Timah Hill for nature, everyone is there too. You see what I'm saying? You are so blessed. All you need to do is just go to the garden and it's nature. We go to the garden and people are there. So, voila, do it. Go back to nature. Sit by the beach, watch the sea. It's nature. Go into your garden, lie on the floor, it's nature. Go into the night sky. Go watch the night sky, it's nature. It's beautiful. Your land is beautiful. I'm thinking of buying a house here. My sponsor will do it. The whole idea is to develop clear awareness and knowing. You have no idea, never mind, Bante is next door. Come for his meditation, he will guide you. And you learn to have this ability because this is a skill. You have to build this skill. You build it well enough, you will find that the three-part wisdom, sila, and the quiet mind, you'll find that the three parts are best friends to keep you happy and joyous and be a source of comfort for others. Okay? I got lazy, so that's just like that. Steps. But then this morning, as I was looking at the notes, it struck me that maybe what I can do is I can share with you the Mangala Sutta, but in a condensed version. It's only for the daily life. We won't go into the part about the practice yet. In case you're not aware, Mangala Sutta, in my view, can actually be understood in this manner. Condensed version. What the Buddha taught was like this. You want to be happy and successful and feeling fulfilled in daily life, in life. You can actually look at it in this sequence. Number one, it's about relationship. Relationship. And in Mangala Sutta, there are a few parts. The first one talks about keeping wise company. Yes? I'm summarizing it. Keeping wise company. So in relationship, find people around you with some wisdom. The wisdom means what? Wisdom means the individual who does not egg you on in feeding your greed and your anger and the delusion. And ideally, it is someone who can travel with you on this Dhamma journey. So you can keep each other in check. Don't keep feeding the greed. Learn to manage the anger and let it go. Learn to moderate, be content. Learn to understand impermanence and accept things, you keep company with somebody who shares these values, and you will find that in daily living, it can be quite joyous, quite comfortable. If you live with someone, you be with someone who constantly eggs you on, you come back angry from work and you say, you know what, I'm really upset with this guy, what should I do to him? And the guy say, we should do this. And you say, yes, let's go do this, and this, and the two of you are really happily angry. So agitating. At the end of it, you half and puff. What just happened? I think we just lost Dhamma. You know what I'm saying? Whereas, I know it's hard, but after a while of living with somebody who says, this is just not Dhamma, let's just learn to calm down a little. And you start a baseline. Your baseline is calm and happy. So you don't give yourself problem down the line. Of course you get agitated. I get agitated, not often, but it does happen. But if you know how to reverse and stop feeding the anger, it's very fast. It will be over before you know it. And then, heck, life is good. Why you bother? What do you bother? You see what I'm saying? Okay, so learn to choose wisely. Friends, family, acquaintances, neighbors you can't do anything about. Never mind. But learn to pick wisely, friends. Second, this is about lay life and success. Buddha talked about learning to harness the resources that you have, use them wisely. Sometimes we squander resources. So what are these resources? Your education, your training, the conditions, the external environment as conditions, the network that you have. These are resources. He talks about having good karma, having done merits in the past. Straight away people think about karma. No. You see, it's because of good things that you have done that you now are equipped with resources. Learn to harness these resources well. Harness well to help your mundane life. In another sutta, he actually talked about in mundane life, do the best that you can in your work. Be the best that you can. You are a layperson. You need to earn a living. Do it to the best that you can. So upgrade, go for training, attend seminar. It's the process that you should be concerned about, not the end result. Usually we are concerned about the end results. We're concerned about making consultant in 1 year, 2 years, having promotion in 3 years, 4 years, earning 50,000 in a month, You must exaggerate a bit, then people don't get. But the idea is we are always concerned about the end result. But the Buddha, when he talks about life, living, he talks about the process. So being the best that you can, it's a process. Learning to harness the resources that you have is a process. Just know it. What are you supposed to use it for? For whatever your goal may be, but it's a process. Giving the best that you have, that you can. It's a process. And then he talks about looking after people and being a good member of society, being upright, being honest, looking after people, and so on. So the next thing is again about relationship and making yourself useful in society. To me, that's very important. Whatever that you have, you are already blessed. How much of this can you share? Because if you can share, you make yourself happy also. And I will strongly put in this part, if you can serve where you have already benefited. pay it forward. So if you have benefited from the Dhamma, serve the Dhamma. If you have benefited from, you may have started from a poor background and you need scholarship to get to where you are, go back, pay it back. Serve where you can. Because in service, it is giving. In giving, it is sila, morality. In sila, there will be happiness. But you must serve with no expectations. If you serve with if I were to serve, I get to enter the stream. You come with a transactional idea in mind. No, giving must be without the notion of an I in it. How do you do that? You will know. Initially, it is hard, but eventually, it is easy. Okay? Oh, I forgot about these parts. Buddha said, for lay people, this is really quite cute. He said in the Viyakapaja Sutta, don't get into debts. The person who is in the lay life and is happy, in other words, do not allow your greed to run ahead of what you can earn. Balanced living. Moderate your craving, live within your means, don't get into debt. Interesting, isn't it? Financial planner, the Buddha. Never knew this little. He taught so many very interesting things. I like to tease my students and say, Buddha asked you buy insurance. They went, really? In the Viyakapaja Sutta, he talked about 4 things that a lay person needs for success and happiness in lay life. Number 1, which was what I said earlier, be the best that you can. Earn a living, but do it to the best of your abilities. The second thing he said was protect your wealth. Protect your wealth. And he went on, protect your wealth against nature calamities, against the robbers, against kings, and against heirs, i.e. people who's going to inherit your property. Now you think about it. In our time, what is protection against natural disaster? Fire, water, he said. Buy insurance. How else do you protect that? Or put all your money in a bank. Let the bank handle it for you. It's interesting, isn't it? And what does it mean by protecting against theft? Well, lock it away or buy insurance. For the record, I'm not an insurance agent. What is protecting against king? You don't cheat. No, there's no insurance against king. Don't cheat the government. Don't under-declare your income tax. Don't cheat the government. Give the government every cent that you owe the government. Protecting against error means know for yourself when the person is out to cheat you. In Chinese, what? 戴眼见人啊，世人爱，戴眼。Know who you're dealing with. You're not dealing with a swindler. And this is about the people who are closest to you. Just be a bit more careful, take a bit more care. Interesting, isn't it? How thoughtful and practical the Buddha was. This is all part of his teaching. He talked about having good friendship, kalyana mita, good, wholesome, skillful friends. Back to this whole notion about choosing to associate with the right people. And then finally, balanced living, i.e. don't get into debt. It's the same thing. Okay? So Buddha gave very good advice on how we can live joyously in lay life. And we just need to have confidence that he was very wise and he gave very good advice. One final point before we end. It came from the Buddha in the Mangala Sutta, but I'm just going to summarize it. This is what he said. After you have settled, but he didn't say after, he merely said, these are your mundane responsibilities and duties. Balance it against spirituality. Even in lay life, in the regular life, you must have some spirituality. I'm not advocating for Buddhism. I'm just saying, whatever it is, do not put all your eggs in the mundane basket. Because when you do that, first, it is not complete. This life is not complete. And second, when the real thing, when the big thing hits, you will find yourself lost. Because there's no spirituality to anchor you. Now I'm speaking for the Dhamma. The Dhamma is an extremely powerful aid, spiritual aid. And so do not, if you already have the Dhamma, do not let it drift. Because the Dhamma can help you restore mental health, make you feel much better, make you feel much happier. And the Dhamma, learning the Dhamma has this portion. It is for happiness in this life and the next. If you believe in rebirth, this life means this secular life, or spiritual if you are a monastic, this life. In other words, moment to moment, day to day, whether or not you are happy, you know. You don't need someone to tell you, you know for yourself. The Dhamma, if you embrace it properly, you understand it properly, you incorporate it into your life properly, it will help you lead this life happily. The next, if you believe in rebirth, then with this practice, it will make sure, it will help you gain this heavenly rebirth. If you don't want to be born too many times, you enter the stream and it's only 7 more, maximum. Buddha said, I believe him. Okay? So, thank you very much. Sadhu, sadhu, sadhu.